Hi greedy 3Ders. Well, today we're going to be having a Hulk special and we're going to be making these bad boys, Bruce Banner and the Hulk himself. I'm going to show you where to find them, show you how to make them, show you how to paint them, and then we'll make a special base to put them on. Just something a little bit different. Stay tuned. We've gone to Etsy.com and we've found the file that we're looking for, Hulk and Bruce Banner 3D model STL. £2.65 is the cost. Now just look at that though, for £2.65 you're getting a great model, highly detailed, and it is highly detailed. You'll see it when it comes out. Really pleased with it, so download that and we will talk about the printing process. Right, so we're going to open up our Bruce Banner file, so let me find that on here. And it's going to open up the first section of it. Now I'm going to print Bruce in one whole section, so a couple of things I'm going to do with this. I'm going to move him across to the outer edge and I'm just going to tilt him back a little bit, and that just means that the front of him will not have any support showing on the main bit that you can see. So there's the first part. I'm then going to open up the second part, which is his head. Exactly the same thing with that. We're going to tilt that. Oh, no, we don't want to do that. Hold on. Now if it does that, it's an interesting point. You may come across this. Just tick the select all box and that will deselect everything that's on there. So now you can move one item alone. So we're going to tilt that back again so that the head itself doesn't have any supports on the face. We're going to add the third section to it, which is his legs. There we go. And we're going to just move them into position. And I'm going to do what I've done with everything else really, which is just rotate it backwards a little bit, just so that the supports, when there are any, are going to be on the back, not the front. So now there's the three pieces of the Hulk, and I'm just going to tweak it a little bit just so that I'm happy with how it looks. Make sure it's all fitted on the build plate, and we can now build Brucey Banner there in one go. Now we can select all, we can go to supports. It will put the rafts on each of them. There we go. And we'll tell it to select all for the supports. It will do its calculation and support all of them. We'll have a look when that's done, just how much supports on and whether there's enough and how it looks. There we go, all supported in. So we'll do what we normally do, is just have a little look just to make sure that all the areas that we need supporting are done. A little bit there on his bottom. I'm just going to add a support there. I might just add one there as well. One there. His head looks fine. Underneath of that looks fine. Okay, and there we have. So it will fit Bruce Banner all in one go. We would go back to that section, slice it up, and that tells us that there's 106 mils of solution going to be needed, and it's going to take about 5 hours to print. So I'm really happy with that. I'm going to save that and I'm going to move that to the printer and print Bruce. So just over 4 hours later, and the Elegoo Mars 2 mono has printed a perfect job. Next thing we're going to need to do is to clean the files that have printed, and for this I'm going to be using the Elegoo Mercury Plus wash and cure station. Really easy, it's just a case of hanging it in, placing over the lid, which is just in water because it's water washable resin, giving it around about 4 minutes to wash, 2 minutes on each side. Once that's done, and obviously I've speeded the process up a little bit there, we're going to take it out, and I'm just going to make sure that all the resin is off it. We don't want any resin left on there, so I'm going to take a toothbrush and just rub it over gently just to make sure that any little remains on there are removed. And it's always worth doing this, as if you cure it with any resin in situ, it leaves a white milky paste on the model, and it's just a little bit more after work you need to do. There we go, a little bit of a rinse, a little bit of a drain, and we're ready to take the print off. I'm using the metal spatula here just to gently tap it and knock them off one at a time. Take your time when you're doing this, don't rush. It just takes a gentle tap and off they generally pop. Now the next stage is to remove the supports, and this is a
a great relaxing feeling it's like bubble wrap, feeling all the supports clicking off. Anyone with a resin printer knows exactly what I'm saying. And the resin supports are great, they just pop off really easily. And there we go, just having a quick look to make sure that it is in only one piece, that there's no marks or blemishes. And once I'm happy, back on the wash and cure station, but this time using the ultraviolet lights to cure it. And I'm probably going to set it for around about 3 minutes. Once the 3 minutes is up, I will stop the process, turn the bits around so that the other side of the ultraviolet light faces them, and then set it again for another 3 minutes. The wash and go station really does make the after printing work so much easier, and I highly recommend you get one. It's around about 100 quid from Amazon, but works a treat. Right, so he's done. I've glued him together. I've used a little bit of wood filler to just fill in any of the gaps, and don't worry about the blemishes or little marks on there. We'll catch all that in the after print process when we just tidy up, clean it up, a little bit of a sand and rub him down a little bit. But there he is, looks amazing. Look at the detail. Resin, it is fantastic for the higher detail, as you can see there.
Okay, so we're going to add the Hulk torso. Open file, find the file you want and select open, and it will drop it in. Now the first thing you see is that that isn't going to fit on the build plate, so we're going to rotate it around first of all so that it does fit on the build plate, and that's the first thing. The second thing to do is you don't want to print it like that, as all the supports will be on the front as well, and you will see the little nodules that it leaves behind. It will leave you to do lots of sanding and work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select rotate again, and I'm just going to tilt it backwards a tad, not too much, just a little bit, just so that the angle is enough for it to print on the supports only on the back, and you can see that's where it's going to print the supports now. Now you could print it like that with some supports, but it will use an awful lot of resin. So what I'm going to do is use a great function in there called hollow. I'm going to set it to 4 in a shell, and I'm going to tell it to start. And what that will do now is it will dig out the inner section of the model and just leave a 4mm outer shell, which will use a lot less resin. But because you're building in resin, there may be some resin on the inside. So what you want to do is add a couple of holes to let it drain, and there's a function on Chitterbox that allows you to do just that. So I'm just going to pop that up to 5mm there, and I'm going to tell it to add a hole, and I'm going to add a hole here, and I'm going to add a hole there. And you can see that the bits of material that have come out have actually been placed on the build plate, and that means that when you're finished and you've drained the model, you can pack it with those holes so you won't notice them. Don't really need them on this occasion, but it's a great idea that Chitterbox allows you to do that. Okay, next section is go to the support section. I've got a raft selected. I always think build a raft, and I am going to tell it to select all for the supports. It will do a little bit of thinking, and it will put some supports in, and it will put them where we want them, which is around the back and around the sides, leaving the front relatively free, as you can see. And there we go, and that's the model we are going to use. Go back to that section, tell it to slice, and 113 mils of fluid is going to be used. Now if we'd have chosen the other version, which would have been the solid version, it would have used an awful lot more. So let's save it, and we'll call it torso hollow. Select save, and it will write the file in. Okay, and all that is saved. So next step is to move it across to the printer and get it to print.
And there we go, all done. I've glued it together. I've used a little bit of wood filler just to fill some of the gaps, and there he is, Hulk, all done. Still needs a little bit of a clean up, but I think you'll agree, looks absolutely amazing. It's quite a substantial piece, really, quite a tall piece, and weighs a fair chunk. Right then, now to the painting. I'm using the Witch's Brew Army Painter War Paint to paint it, and this colour I found is a fantastic colour to paint the Hulk. The way that I always do Hulks is just to put a little bit on the brush, using quite a wide brush, and dab it on. The secret for me here is a base layer of black, spray painted black first, and then delicate light coats, getting darker and darker each time with the Witch's Brew paint. Don't rush, wide, thick brush, and just keep rubbing it on, concentrating obviously on the outer areas of the muscles. We don't want to concentrate too much on the inner parts where the muscles should be shadowed, so the outer areas get the lighter cover. And take your time, go over all those parts, let it dry, go over it, let it dry, go over it, until you're happy with the end result. And I think it's a great Hulk colour, as I'm sure you'll agree there. Now we're going to mix the colours for the jeans, and the colours I'm using are 3 colours. I'm going to use a blue, a white and a burgundy, and just mix them together till you get the colour that you like. Fine brush, and then follow the outline of the jeans, and use a fine brush to get all the nooks and crannies so that you really give it a good effect. And then once you've done that and all the little bits are done, use a wider, thicker brush and colour in the rest of the jeans in that one same colour. We're going to do some shading and highlighting later, but just the one colour for now. Take your time, you don't want it splattering all over the green. Okay, now we move on to the face, and for the whites of the eyes I'm not using white, I'm using skeleton bone, again from the Army Painter, and I'm just using my magnification glasses to make sure that I get a fine detail as I can. So once I've got the white skeleton bone in, I'm going to do a black iris, just using some jet black paint. Then I'm going to choose a green, any green that you want really there, just to do his iris colours. And over the black of the inner part of the eye, I'm going to do a little green circle, and then on the centre of the eye for his pupil, a little tiny black dot. Teeth, I'm using skeleton bone to colour his teeth with a shade of white on the top, and then a hint of pink and a hint of red just to show the inner sides of the lips. Once that's done, jet black for the hair, taking time again to make sure you fill in all the detail. And that's pretty much the face done. Just then take a few minutes to go over it carefully. Just go over the eyelids and the bottom of the eyelid. You might want a little bit of a red line at the bottom of the eyelid, and don't forget his eyebrows too. Moving now on to Bruce, and the same kind of process. For the skin, I'm using Terran Flesh Colour from the Army Painter range. Take your time with this small brush, magnification glasses, and just go all over the facial areas. There's that jean colour again, so a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, and I will be adding a little bit of burgundy in as well, just to get a much better jean colour. Now, his jacket and his jeans are going to be made of denim, but I want the jacket to be a darker colour. So once I'm happy with the colour I've got for the jeans, I'll remix it to a darker colour and start painting the jacket. I just didn't want it all the same colour. If you're not sure how to mix denim colour, there's plenty of YouTube videos just to tell you the consistencies and what you need to use. Take your time though. Slowly, slowly, catch your monkey when you're doing the painting. You don't want it all over the place. With his face, just do it in layers again, and with the pink, just for the Terran Flesh, just add little bits of red, little bits of brown, and just add a bit of shade and colour to his face. Decided to give him a white shirt, so just plain white to start with and build the layers. Give it 2 or 3 layers of the white, letting it dry in between each time, and then just add some effects to the white. Just use some wash to make the shirt look a little bit grubby, a little bit dirty, and just make sure that you go right on the inside of the denim jacket effects. So you paint inside it so it does look like that the shirt itself is underneath. Take your time around his head to make sure that you follow that line really closely around his neck as well, to give it quite a definitive look between skin and shirt. Just takes a little bit of time, and Bruce Banner is all done. Well, there we go. Hulk and Bruce all done. Now, I don't know if you agree or not, but I don't think they've ever really nailed an Incredible Hulk movie up until they used Mark Ruffalo in The Avengers, and then they kind of got it right. But in 2008, Edward Norton did this film here, and it wasn't too bad. And if we look at the shot of the poster, you'll see where the inspiration comes from for these two characters, and you'll also see how I've got my idea for the stand. Hope you like it. Please subscribe.
Ha 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 ha!